This is the new Porsche Cayenne GTS, and remarkably, it's one of the few cars that bucks the trend of engine downsizing by featuring a larger motor with more cylinders compared to the model it replaces. That's a bit like the 718 GTS 4-litre that debuted earlier this year, and you can find a review of the 6-cylinder sports car by heading over to YesAuto.com. The Cayenne GTS sits between the Cayenne S and the Turbo, combining a big, powerful engine with a host of chassis upgrades to make the car a bit more engaging behind the wheel. Being a 2.1-tonne 4x4, it's unlikely to give you the same kind of thrills as a 718 or a 911 GTS, that goes without saying. But the upgrade should make it one of the most fun-to-drive SUVs on the market. With the first round of deliveries due to get underway next month, here are 5 things you need to know about the new Cayenne GTS. It's fair to say that Porsche fans weren't all that pleased when the company ditched the V8 in the first generation GTS for a smaller, yet still quite punchy, V6 in the second gen model. Well, the good news is the company has been listening to customers, something that more car manufacturers should do, and has equipped the GTS with the 4-litre twin-turbo V8 from the Turbo. The motor, which can also be found in the Panamera, has been detuned from 542 brake horsepower to 454, with torque falling from 770 Nm to 620. Still, the new GTS outputs 20 brake horsepower and 19 Nm of torque more than the V6 model, and is good for a 0 to 62 time of 4.5 seconds, just 0.4 seconds shy of the Turbo. The BMW X5 M50i, arguably the closest rival to the GTS, especially in terms of price, has a higher output at 530 brake horsepower and can sprint to 62 mph in 4.3 seconds. And though it's roughly 100 kilos heavier than the GTS, the X5 M50i is slightly more frugal than the Porsche, with a combined MPG of 23.3, 2.1 mpg more than the GTS. While it may lose out to the X5 M50i on paper, we're pretty confident the Porsche would put up a better fight on a racetrack thanks to a raft of chassis upgrades introduced on the GTS. As standard, the GTS comes with new adaptive dampers on steel springs that lower the car by 20mm, though you can spec 3-chamber air suspension that drops the car by a further 10mm. Coupled to that is Porsche's active suspension management, PASM, which adapts the damping force on each wheel to match the road surface. It's available as standard on the GTS and has been specially tweaked for the sporty Cayenne. Torque Vectoring Plus also comes as standard. The system uses an electronic rear differential to modulate power between the rear wheels depending on the car's steering angle, steering speed, vehicle speed, and yaw rate. This essentially allows the car to distribute power in a way that can bring the back end closer to the apex when you're hooning about on a track. Along with all the chassis and engine upgrades, Porsche has kitted out the cabin with Alcantara and gloss black trim to make you feel as though you're behind the wheel of a 911 GTS, albeit one that's on stilts. Step inside and you'll find the steering wheel has been wrapped in Alcantara, as have parts of the sports seats and the grab handles on either side of the centre console. The rest of the cabin is a mix of leather and gloss black surfaces, though you can add carbon fibre highlights for an extra £606. On the outside, the Cayenne gets a few subtle upgrades to set it apart from the standard model. Like all GTS cars, there are a whole load of gloss black trim elements and badges. The exhaust tips are also in black, as are the standard 21-inch wheels. If you fancy your Cayenne GTS with a little less boot space, you could always opt for the Coupe variant, which goes on sale alongside the standard model. As the name suggests, the Coupe features a more elegant roofline that slopes downwards towards the back of the car, giving the SUV a sleeker silhouette. This does come at the cost of boot space, as you lose 145 litres over the standard car, but it arguably suits the GTS's more performance-focused demeanour. And while some coupe-shaped SUVs look a little bit off, the Cayenne Coupe is quite a handsome-looking thing. Pricing for the Cayenne GTS starts at £85,930, which rises to £88,750 when you spec the coupe version. That makes the GTS just over £15,000 cheaper than the Turbo, though it carries a £16,000 premium over the Cayenne S. It's also around £10,000 more expensive than the faster, yet less sporty BMW X5 M50i. Still, we think the move back to a V8 plus the sporty upgrades to the interior and chassis will tempt buyers to gloss over the Cayenne S and go for the GTS. For all the latest car news and reviews, head over to YesAuto.com.